Hi everyone, it's Renee Jayne here, and today I want to talk with you about intuitive eating and a little bit different take on it. It can work well for some of my clients. Notice I'm saying some, because it's not a one-size-fits-all thing, and today I want to break down some of the reasons why I believe that is the case. A question is, can we really trust our intuition? And is there anything that's blocking what that intuition is and what is intuitive eating? And more importantly, do we all have access to it? So there's so many questions. There's a lot of what are called fads in the health industry, especially around wellness and nutrition. You know this, right? I feel like intuitive eating has been that. And let me say, I also teach and promote intuitive eating to some of my clients. There was a time that I really thought my intuition was spot on, and this has actually happened more than once now, but I'm just thinking about it a moment. I really trusted my intuition. I would have put hundreds of thousands of dollars on the line that this is what intuition was saying to do. And then all of a sudden I realized that it really wasn't my intuition talking. It was old trauma and wounds that I hadn't healed. And it was more of an addictive part of me talking, saying you need this instead of this. There's so much to talk about here, so I'm gonna try to just be brief. I have a program called My Nutrition 360. It's a group coaching program. You can find it on reneejayne.com, where we go a lot deeper into this. So if you want to apply or you want more information, just go to my website and check it out, because I can help you. But in a nutshell, we're dealing with our genes, and we're dealing with our minds, and we're dealing with our emotional selves. And then we have a frame of reference, and then we have physical body cravings and different kinds of inflammatory responses and hormones, and there's so much going on in our bodies. We're gonna reach for foods in our environment, for example, in this simple example. If you live in a house and you have Oreo cookies in your pantry and you have certain foods, in your refrigerator, and that they kind of haven't changed in a while, and you haven't gotten rid of some of those things, if that is in our environment, or we're even working in an office space where there's a lot of foods kind of sitting out regularly all the time that we have exposure to, we're going to reach for those foods within our environment. And so you have to start to question, can I trust my environment, right? And do I need to change that environment? Do I need to kind of replenish the pantry and, take a good look at what foods are surrounding me? Because how do you know what you cannot see? If you were picked up and transported into a whole nother house that had we'll dream here, a private chef cooking for you, and really healthy, delicious foods with the pantry completely stocked, refrigerator completely stocked, and your workspace had really healthy foods, you would probably reach for those things. Let me just break down for a second what intuition is. I believe that all humans have an innate sense of intuition, which could also be worded as instinct. There's something that's in us that's all-knowing, an inner wisdom that can kind of guide and direct us. Now, whether or not that intuition is functioning or working well has a lot of different factors. I've had a lot of clients who are intuitives or psychics, as an example. For a living, they intuitively help others. And they were struggling with the idea of intuitive eating. There's things that are getting in our way that are blocking our intuition. And I want to be really clear that if we hear anything out there about just intuitively eat, trust your body, that there's so many other factors that you might need to look at before you can do the intuitive eating. Because intuitive eating can actually work really well. But let me give you a quick example. So let's use someone named Lori. I'm just making this up as an example for all of us. And Lori is having an emotional day. She's having a tough day, and she's kind of trying to sit with her emotions. And she decides that chocolate is going to help her feel better. And so she goes and indulges in some chocolate. And then she's like, you know what? Chips. chips are gonna help me feel better. And she goes and indulges in some of the chips. And she says, you know what, I'm gonna give myself permission to eat these things. Like, I know that I probably shouldn't eat a ton of them, but like today I'm having this emotional day and I really wanna eat these things. And her gut says, like, you deserve this. You deserve this. And now, like, her stomach hurts from all the chips and the bag is gone and half the chocolate is gone. And her guilt kicks in from doing it. And then the next day she feels really bad and she's shaming herself, and her emotions are even more heightened now because not only was she emotional about life, but then she did all this stuff and it just magnified all of it. Let's question that for a minute. Is that really Lori's intuition, or is that something else? Just to remember too that there's so many things that are going on, like our thinking and our physiological makeup and how we're doing hormonally right now and how we're handling stress right now in our lives. Like, all these things come into play. Like, if Joe, client example, hasn't slept in months and he's barely worked out, and somebody tells him that eating intuitively is going to be the recipe to help him, they're dead wrong. So when we feel bad, we crave to feel better. That's kind of our natural instinct as humans. When we have pain of some sort, and I don't just mean physical pain, it could be emotional pain, our instinct is usually to try to fix the pain. Our culture has become somewhat compulsive in this area of how can I get rid of that pain as quick as possible, or how can I numb it just a little bit so it's not as bad and I don't have to feel it. Sometimes that works for us. But then sometimes there's big consequences to us numbing out that pain. If we are somebody who has had childhood trauma, or we are somebody who's had any emotional dependency or emotional pain from, or even behavioral things or attachment issues from childhood, or we've dealt with any kind of abuse, like we've dealt with some big things, and maybe for some of us, we don't even realize the extent to which we've dealt with things. They're deep in our subconscious mind. Like we don't necessarily see them, and they start to pop up in various ways in our life. I'm gonna use another client as an example who's like, I'm overweight and I really need to lose weight, and I've gained like 70 pounds and I'm on depression meds right now. Like, these are all the things she's sharing with me. And I read this article on intuitive eating, and I really want to try it. Does intuitive eating work for her? As we dive deeper, we realize no, like she's got to deal with a lot of emotional pain and some of the emotional abuse, and she's got to deal with some trauma under the surface so she can even get access to this connection with her body. We got to take into consideration the idea of trusting. And trusting comes from having a level of intimacy with our body where we feel connected. We feel connected to the sensations inside our body, and we feel connected to our self with a capital S, like our whole self. And so we're taking this mind, body, spirit approach. And even though our signals might say, I feel full, or our signals might say, I feel hungry, it may sound like I'm telling you not to trust yourself, but what I'm really saying is that I really want you to learn to trust yourself, and I want you to know that there might be more work required, and it's okay to have work to be done, like we're all working on stuff, before you can get to this idea of intuitively knowing what your body needs. Good in theory, and it's a tool that can be used on some occasions, but I want you to have kind of the buyer beware sign right along the top, and know that it can also be one of those magic pills that's promoted by a lot of big companies or marketers, to really just distract us in today's culture and give us like the next thing to do for a little while until we realize that it's not helped us at all. If you have any questions, I'd love to answer them, and I believe that community and connection is how we heal. And so if you like this video, please press the like button, and please leave a comment below so we can continue to engage together and continue this conversation. I will see you next time. Bye, everyone.